This week I want to talk about how I fish on rivers, and what's come about is that I'm not as young as I used to be, and I'm finding my feet hurt when I stand for any length of time. I can still walk good distances, but I need to think about going back to how I often used to fish on the rivers, which is sitting on a seat box. I really like travelling light on the river. I've got a roving bag that weighs about £10, I suppose. That goes up a bit when I put in a camcorder and a microphone, and I obviously carrying a tripod as well. But that part's not going to change. And by comparison, the fairly small and fairly light Shakespeare beta box that I've got weighs about £15. That's with all the kit in there, the reels, floats, shot, set of scales. And so that means I'm going to carry about another £5. And then add to that, because it's got an octopus leg kit on it, we've got to add the weight of the legs to that. So it means I'm going to have to cart about another £7. But once I'm on the riverbank, I can sit comfortably, not end up in agony. And there's some other changes that this brings. One of the things about roach fishing is not being seen by the fish. It's all very well fishing somewhere that's incredibly prolific, or if you're fishing at range, it doesn't matter so much. But when you're on a fairly clear river with fairly low banks, you're not up against with the bank behind you, you're skylining. So by sitting down on the riverbank, I'm going to be that bit lower, a couple of foot lower, so less visible to the fish. That's got to be a good thing. It's also makes it much easier to pole fish or fish a whip as well. I've done a huge amount of pole fishing on rivers. That there are advantages and disadvantages of pole fishing. Obviously the range is more limited with a pole. Faster water is more difficult to fish, and trotting any distance is limited. But there's lots of times on the Stour in the summer, especially when it's fairly slow, where fishing a pole is quite nice to do. This is how I'm going to play it. I'm going to try and carry this extra gear on not too long a walks this summer. Hopefully my feet will get a bit better in time, and I can go back to standing up and without crippling myself. Part of the problem is that I did go out the first day of the fishing season, walking in some lightweight wellies, very cheap Dunlops, and with the ground rock hard from the drought that we've had for the last few weeks, certainly since back in mid-May, the ground is just so, it's not flat and hard, it's sort of knobbly and hard on a field, and I ended up pretty much crippled by it. In the winter I've been wearing muck boots, muck masters, and they're far more comfortable boots, but they're too hot in hot weather. It would be all right if I could stand in the water, but that's not always easy on the Stours. There are places where you can wade, but not the upper Stour tends to stay on the banks because it's so deep straight off. The lower parts of the Stour and Thrute, for instance, you quite often get very shallow water close in, but not everywhere. So a change to approach. As I say, I used to fish all the time with a box when I match fished. My green Shakespeare box, standard size one, which has had octopus feet fitted since 1990. And it was quite normal to carry this huge weight. It didn't do my back any good at the time. And in those days I would have taken a keep net, which was another £5, which I no longer carry a net. Quite a few rods, poles, bank sticks, a lot of gear. That gear with all the bait I was taking as well could weigh anything up to 80 or 90 pounds, which is a lot to stick on your back. And I've got a Preston X3 box, and that is virtually uncarryable. That's not only heavy, it's bulky in a horrible way that if you try and carry it on your shoulder on a strap, it's a nightmare. You can obviously carry it with a trolley, and a trolley might be part of the answer. That on certain venues I might take my trolley, which is an old Boss trolley, a very good one with pneumatic tyres. If I can keep the tyres fully inflated on that, I'll be well away. So something a little bit different today, thinking about standing up, sitting down, and it looks like for the near future I'm going to be sitting down more. I fished a couple of still waters lately, sat down in the shade, and it's been very pleasant. And that's all my still water fishing, for instance, is always sat down, but then the walks are relatively short. About the furthest I would walk on a still water would be about 300 or 400 yards, and that's exceptional. So until next week, hopefully I'll catch some fish to show you something decent. It's goodbye for now.